The Prophet ﷺ prohibited At-Tabattul, which is, if you like, celibacy, never to get married. Okay, I will never get married. The Prophet ﷺ prohibited that. And as we know that there's a direct hadith, نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن التبتل, that the Prophet ﷺ prohibited celibacy. A person to make an oath never to get married, not allowed to do that. The hadith is in Ibn Majah, narrated by Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, that the Prophet ﷺ said, النكاح سنتي, that marriage or nikah is my sunnah. فمن لم يعمل به سنتي فليس مني, that who does not act upon my sunnah is not from me. وتزوجوا, and get married. فإني مكاثر بكم والأمم يوم القيامة, but I will be very happy and that you are in large numbers on the day of judgment. ومن كان ذو طول فلينكح, and that the one who is able to get married, or who has the ability to do so, then let them do so. And know that, and marriage is shatru al-iman, or shatru al-deen, that marriage is half of the deen. فَلْيَتَّقِي فَالنِّصْفَ الْبَاقِي, and let them fear the other half. So here we have clear evidence to say that marriage represents half of your religion, half of what you're going to undertake in your path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are all realistic things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned to us, and similarly the Prophet alayhi salam, things that we can achieve. Now, when we're talking about az-zawaj, or we're talking about nikah, it's important that for a person to work towards it, that you know about its benefits. Fawaidun nikah, or fadlun nikah, its virtues, its blessings, the goodness that can come from that. Now, the hadith which I mentioned is Ibn Majah, is also in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. من رزق الله امرأة صالحة فقد أعانه على شطر دينه فليتق الله في شطر الباقي. That whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants a pious wife, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enabled him and helped him complete half of his religion, then let him fear the other half. Now when we're talking about marriage, we're not talking about the contract itself. In fact, if you're talking about the reality of marriage, we're talking about a long way before you even have found somebody. Before you've even found somebody, because it starts way before that. It starts about, if you like, from your parents. You see your parents and you see how your father and your mother, how they interact with one another. This is your understanding of what marriage is about, maybe. Or if you look at in more detail, something more practical for all of us, so you look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ and how he would be with his wives, and similarly the wives with the Prophet ﷺ. The dua that you would make, the approach that you would have with your family members. The Prophet ﷺ said to the man why, or different type of women that they would marry, and similarly, and what you should choose, and similarly for a woman, what you should be looking for. What you should be looking for. Now, that desire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed within us, this part of our fitra, it has to have boundaries. Has to have boundaries. If it is not curbed, if it doesn't have any boundaries, then that will lead that person to destruction. If you don't control those desires, whatever those desires are, those natural things that Allah Jalla wa'ala placed within you, eating and drinking and looking at the other gender and things, these are all natural things that Allah Azza wa Jalla placed in man and woman. And if they don't have boundaries, that will lead to the destruction of that individual or a society. Therefore, the guidance that Allah Azza wa Jalla has given to us is the very best guidance to preserve the individual and to preserve the society. If that fitrah becomes corrupted by shaitan, if shaitan corrupts the fitrah of that individual, meaning that corruption could mean that what is deemed halal and tayyib by Allah Azza wa Jal, now in the eyes of that individual is khabith and mardud. Imagine that. Is now wrong, filthy and rejected. That person's fitrah has become corrupted. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to have control or direct those behaviors with a relationship with another person in or under the umbrella or the scope of az-zawaj, under marriage.